Right guys, welcome back to the channel. What a Load of Bull episode 30, and it's Boxing Day 2021. So I hope you and all your families and stuff had a great Christmas or are having a good one so far. Today I'm going to be turning this OEM injector loom into this. But before I do that, I'm going to show you how I made it. I could have used my original one, but it is in a bit of a sorry state. A lot of the, I've had to seal that up because there was conductors showing and it's just a bit haggard. So I was lucky enough to find another one. The injectors that I've got, which are these ones, Siemens Deka 630. They've got a mini timer connector. That's the name of this one, or some call it a Bosch EV1 connector, but it's a mini timer or junior timer. And the original loom has the Sumitomo. I'm assuming it's Sumitomo because a lot of the stuff in the engine bay is, and that's for the original injectors. So there's the difference. At the same time, I'm also going to be putting in a Bosch knock sensor, which is right down in the valley near the coolant mod, and that also takes the same connector. So what I'm going to do is jazz this one up a bit really. I'm going to take off all the OEM convoluted pipework stuff. I'm going to remove the original connectors and then cut them as long as I possibly can. So I'm not just going to chop them off here. I want as much conductor as possible. And then I'm going to redo it using high temp Tessa tape, which is this stuff. This is the less furry of the tapes. I had to do a bit of research into what was best for hot areas, and this is the better one. So I'll dig out the model number for that. I thought it was going to be on the inside, but it's not. And I'll put that in the description. So it's going to be a combination of Tessa tape and heat shrink. Certainly not a mil spec harness. None of the rest of the harness is. This is a sub harness just for the injectors. But seeing as I'm doing it and wiring and stuff like that is my jam, I'm going to jazz it up and make it a bit newer. So I'll show you the main steps along the way. Essentially, I've got to get these connectors off, get all of this protection and sheathing off, and then kind of work my way from the big connector back, because I'm leaving the big connector pinned as it is. This is the one for the injectors. It's got 6 grounds and 1 live, so that's the live feed for all the injectors, and then their switch grounds. I'll explain a bit more about how that works later. And then this one here is for the knock sensor. I do also need to incorporate, and here's a shabby version of it here. I'm going to put in another connector like this, so that when I come to LPG it, I just disconnect this and then plug in the LPG system. So I'm probably going to put that around about here, a bit more length on it than on that one. And just before the bend, so I'll incorporate that as well. I'm just going to put a 6-way connector like that. The live will just follow on along with the knock sensor, and then they'll regroup just before the bend back into one. Looking at the layout for the injectors, we've got cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then this longer one here in the middle, this 7th one, it is a different connector on here. That is the one for the knock sensor. So again, that will be getting a mini timer or junior timer. I'll put it in the description what it actually is. But once I got this done, then I can actually start assembling the top end of the engine again. So that's quite exciting. So I'm going to make a start and show you key points along the way. Cool. Right, it's taken a couple of connectors to work it out. The first one I had to fully sacrifice. Second one I got it kind of dialed. There's a terminal lock, which is that white bit in the middle there. That needs to slot out. The first one I did, that only half came out and I didn't realise, so that's what made the rest of it a bit hard to do. But the last one I did, the whole thing came out. Once you do that, then you need to stick like a long thin flathead screwdriver right down kind of where the plastic bit is now, and kind of forcefully lever it out, and then they come out the other end. So I'm going to try that again and just show you the end result. With a bit of brute force, they should come out like that. Haven't quite mastered out the lock. That one, it just broke off. I'm not reusing them, so I'm not actually being all that careful. I just want these connectors off, so if I was reusing them, then I'd be a bit more careful. And then I'm just cutting it off, so right at the end of the crimp, so that I've got as much conductor as possible to deal with. I'm putting these weather seals to one side as well, because they might be a nice fit with the other connectors. So yeah, just working my way around. Once I've done all the connectors, then I'll start stripping off all the outer stuff. Right, stage 1 complete. All the old connectors are off. Managed to save as much conductor as possible, which is good. None of those are going to be reusable. I butchered them. If you are needing to take them off and refit them, I recommend getting a pin removal kit. I couldn't find my trusty pin extractor, so I was just doing it with flatheads, and like I said, I knew that I wasn't going to need them again, so I was happy to butcher them. But if you need to reuse them, please take a bit more care than I did. So next job to do is to get all of this convoluted stuff off. So I'm just going to go around very carefully, cut that with a Stanley and get all this other sheathing off. Before I went too far, I wrote down the colours just in case I get a bit lost later on. Should be fairly straightforward, but you never know. Yeah, just crack on from there. Like I said, I'm going to kind of work my way back and then come back in the opposite way, and it should be pretty plain sailing. And that's what it looks like on the inside. So there's some heat shrink here. This must be some sort of coaxial cable for the knock sensor, but then it splits off at that end, and same at this end. I've kind of paired up everything as I was taking off the sheathing, so I know where they exit there, or where they branch off of the main loom. And I'm just about to thread some heat shrink to get to this very end, and to then make this into kind of an all-in-one type thing. So I've got one piece to go around the knock sensor, and then another piece which is going to go around everything. Then round about here, or shortly after, I'm going to cut it all apart from the main power wire, and then I'm going to put on a connector for that. Yeah, and then run the power line with the knock sensor, and then join them all back together shortly after that. So I'll show you in a sec. Makes sense in my head. Alright, all going well. Just about to do the breakout for future proofing for the LPG. I'm going to be using Delphi MetriPack connectors. The ECU uses Delphi, so I kind of went along that route when I did that installation. So I'm keeping most of the car to the Delphi MetriPack, and then all the LPG stuff seems to be AMP Super Seal, so I'm going to stick with that for that, and that should make things a bit easier to troubleshoot anyway. So I've cut my 6 ground wires, my 6 signal wires. I put on my weather seal already. I'm then going to use my strippers to strip off the amount that I need, and then crimp the correct terminal on. These are what we call open barrel, and they use a crimper which looks a bit like this, so it's got a bit of lever action there to double up on what you press down, and then depending on the size depends on the groove that you use. And then there's also one, or the rounder one is to seal the crimp to the weather seal. So I'll do my best to show you that as we go. I'm going to start with cylinder 1, get that into terminal A on here and just work my way through that. And then I know at a later date everything's in the correct place, or a logical place at least. So when I come to strip the wire, I want about that much copper showing. It's really hard to see, can't focus. And in order to do that, I can adjust the stop on the stripper. So good idea to practice with a bit of cable first before the one that you're actually trying to terminate. Work out where it's best to set your stopper, and then go from there, because you'll find that the sheath does stretch a bit as you try to strip it, so you might need to set that longer than you actually think, or maybe even a bit shorter, but work that out. I'm going to do that and I'll get it all rigged up and then show you the crimp. I'm afraid I haven't got my assistant with me today, so I'm trying to film and do everything with only 2 pairs of hands, so forgive me if I don't show everything. I have done this a lot, and now's a chance to use one of those things. So click the link top right, that should take you to the plug and play harness building, which I did, and I covered crimping and terminating and everything quite a lot in there. So if you want more of that, that's the best place to look. And I'll get this all rigged up so that you can see the actual crimp. There we go. Struggling to get this focused. That's about how much I want. If anything, that's a little bit long. I need to trim a little bit off the end of that. But I need a little bit of copper coming out past the crimp, because in a minute we'll have to slide on the weather seal and it needs to lift up a little bit. You'll see why in a little bit. I just wanted to show you that is about roughly the right length to strip, maybe a little bit less. Hopefully this works one-handed. Looks pretty good. Go down and put all my weight on it. Come on, focus. You might not be able to see, but I can see that's come out quite good, although the sheathing is a little bit far up. So I'll try, if I had 2 hands on that, I do want a little bit of copper past it. It should be alright, I'm not going to change it, but that's just because I was trying to do it with one hand. So I'm now just going back through and heat shrinking kind of the branches, or where it branches off. Little tip with heat shrink, it does shrink, but it also stretches. So this part up here is a little bit tight. I couldn't get it on first time round for this one. But I stretched it with the needle nose pliers, just put them in, worked it a bit and stretched it until it was bigger, and then I managed to get it over. It was still tight, but I got it over, so good tip there. You can stretch heat shrink should you need to get it over something. Through and heat shrinking kind of the branches, or where it branches off. Little tip with heat shrink, it does shrink, but it also stretches. So this part up here is a little bit tight. I couldn't get it on first time round for this one, but I stretched it with the needle nose pliers, just put them in, worked it a bit and stretched it until it was bigger, and then I managed to get it over. It was still tight, but I got it over, so good tip there. You can stretch heat shrink should you need to get it over something. Right, pretty pleased with how that came out. Just a heat shrink on all the junctions. It was a bit thin down here, but I've given that a bit of a squidge and managed to get it to seal. This is the stuff with glue inside it, so it's sticky, obviously. Sorry, it's been a long one. So my next thing to do is to get the boots on, then terminate, and then slide the boots on. to seal it up. What I am looking for though is some heat shrink which is just a little bit smaller than this stuff, or quite a bit smaller than this stuff, but bigger than this stuff, just to put a tiny little band on where the end of the boot will go, just so that it gets a good seal. Probably don't need to do that, I'm just being a bit pedantic as normal, but I'm pretty sure I've got something somewhere which will do that, so I'm gonna have a look for that and then crack on. Right, I couldn't find any other heat shrink, so the little branches, I just went and did another lap with the Tesa tape. Got one of the boots on already, and then I just had a thought about connector orientation, like which way to go. I was about to do them all like this, but I thought I'd better double check the keyway, and that's on the top there, or near the spring, so when it comes to terminating them, I need to have them upside down like that. But if you look at the injector and the knock sensor has that notch on top, so I must remember to do that the right way. And for these, the notch is on the bottom, so everything is going to be that way around. One down, 8 to go. I think I got the knack though, looking pretty good. Pleased with how that's come out. And we're done. Pretty pleased with the end result. I just hope it all fits. It should do, but certain things look a little bit off on length, but the car's in pieces, so I couldn't do a measurement check, and I'm pretty sure I got it right. So I'm going to take that as a win anyway. There was plenty of slack, so if it's not quite right, I'm sure it'll be fine. Thanks for watching. That was episode 30. I think next episode I'll be fitting this and starting to rebuild the intake plenum, and that'll probably be next weekend. So again, thanks for watching. I hope you all having a good Christmas so far. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe, give it a like if you found this useful, and I'll see you in about a week when we do the next thing. Take care, bye.